We tripled this e-commerce brand's email marketing revenue by optimizing their email flows. And what I'm going to be doing in this video here is showing you the exact optimizations that we made, and you'll be able to take, everything that I show you here, apply it to your own brand and get similar results. So here are the optimizations that we ran for, this brand, and here is us giving the optimization report to the client, so you'll be able to see. And this is what we do for all of our clients, at the end of each week. Any tests that we're running, this is sort of where we report on it. So it's like, all right, here are the variations, here's the winning variation, here is the result. As you can see, the clients were very, sort of stoked about this. As anybody would be if you're making triple the sales on your abandoned checkout. So let's start with that abandoned checkout. So this is a screenshot from their Klaviyo account. As you can see right here, this is their original version that their old agency set up. Before we started working with them, they were telling me about how their previous agency was like, A/B testing certain things, but he wasn't the best at it. So we went in, and this was one of our initial wins. So here's the email that they had previously, and then we just rebuilt, their abandoned checkout, and A/B tested it directly against their version, and here are the results. So let's zoom in here. Here's their version, 51% open rate, 5% click rate, 1.6% placed order rate with 1,300 in sales. Pretty decent sample size, with the abandoned checkout flow. It's going to be harder to accumulate, sample size versus something like the welcome flow, where everybody who enters your email list has to go through that. But in this case, the results were so drastically significant that, we were able to come to this conclusion with a relatively smaller sample size of only 1,500 total. So here's what they had. Plain text, which I always say it's not as conducive to maximizing conversions on the abandoned checkout stage, just because, when you open this, there's a wall of text. Nothing really grabs my attention. We have the call to action button as a URL link instead of a button, which typically converts lower than a button. So we noticed you were looking at some of our blah, 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 blah. Okay, so super generic NPC text almost. As soon as I read this, it's not super interesting. It loses my attention right away. And remember, when we're trying to convert people, obviously we need to hold their attention, all right? And if their attention drops off, then we lose the sale essentially. So we compare that with our version, which, is a designed version, and designed versions or designed emails aren't always going to outperform the plain text emails. It really depends on the type of email that we're sending here. So abandoned checkout typically is going to be a designed version because it holds their attention better and allows us to channel their attention to all the necessary areas that we need them to look at in order for them to become a customer and complete their purchase. So here's what we have. Your cart is still waiting. So when somebody opens their email, first thing that they're going to look at is, what's on the first screen, or the first scroll rather, above the fold. So we want to contain all of the necessary information that they need in order to become a customer. And what is that? So number one, what is the primary message of the email, which in this case is, by the way, your cart is still waiting, and then call to action button. You're going to convert some people just based on this messaging here alone. And the people who aren't ready to convert, essentially what we need is we need them to read this, scroll down here, touch on sort of the benefits of the product, unique selling points, so grass-fed, grass-finished in this case, and highlight the benefits of the product that'll solve whatever problem that they're trying to solve, which in this case is, energy, endurance, strength, well-being, etc. Dynamic product block here, basically show whatever item was in their cart. That's going to be the most relevant item to them because they were literally about to buy it anyway. So we're going to show them that there. And call to action. All right, so you want to have a contrasting button, all right, instead of this hyperlink text. All right, so call to action button, and then down here underneath the call to action button, what we did is we just put in the unique selling points. And We ran that against their version, and so they did 1.6% conversion rate versus our version, which had 3.6% conversion rate, and 4,000 in sales on our version versus 1,300 in sales on their version, with the same amount of deliveries here, so that's important. And not only did ours convert better in terms of sales, but ours also generated a higher open rate, and that's going to have to deal with the subject lines here, which I've kept confidential here just to keep their brand private. But open rate is 65% versus their open rate of 51%. Click rates 9.4% versus click rate of 5% on theirs. Now, as I always say, like the main sort of metric that we're optimizing here is sales. So sometimes what you're going to have is lower open rates and lower click rates, but a higher sales conversion rate, in which case the higher sales converting one would be the winning variation, because at the end of the day, we're trying to convert sales. All right. So these aren't always going to correlate, but in this case, they do. So that's good. We have more people opening it. More people, clicking on the email, and these are mostly secondary metrics, the open and click rate. So let's say the sales conversion rate is the same. That's where we would sort of look at, okay, well, this one has a higher open rate. All right. So that is the abandoned checkout. Now let's go over to this one right here, which is the welcome flow. Okay. So this one's pretty interesting because these actually have the same, sales conversion rate, but one of them has a higher, total sales volume. And the reason why is because, our version, which I'll get into here in a second, actually increased the average order value of the people who converted. So let's say we send out 1,000 per variation, and 100 people buy on each variation. All right. The main differentiating factor in both of those is that on our version, the B variation, they purchased twice as much, like the average customer purchased twice as much. Let's say they bought 2 products instead of 1, and that is significant, all right? And as you can see right here, their version had a 1% placed order rate, same as ours, but theirs generated 3,800 in sales versus ours, which generated 6,600 in sales. And this one is highly significant because they both delivered to around 4,100 people each. All right. And, I'm not really going to take into account the open rates and click rates that much, just because they're relatively similar. Like these pretty much are the same. So yeah, and I didn't include sort of like the in-depth breakdown of the emails here, just because I already sort of covered that with this one here. So yeah, maybe in a future video I'll cover this one in more depth, but that was the welcome flow as well. Obviously, this is significant for our clients because these improvements will last for the lifespan of the business. All right. So as long as the business is continuing to run, there's going to be people abandoning carts before they purchase, and we just effectively tripled the amount of people that we recover who abandoned their carts. All right, so that's going to be significant. This is an 8-figure brand, so we tripled their cart abandonment recovery rate, and we doubled the average order value of anybody who joins the email list. So that's going to be significant on their ads as well, maximizing their return on ads that way. All right, so that's all for this video here. Basically, I just showed you how to optimize your abandoned checkout and welcome flow. And if you want to check out my in-depth breakdown and tutorial of how to build both of those flows optimally, check out one of these videos here.